Hey man, you talking today.
Oh, ladies and gentlemen, it is that time again. Time for Zen AM. Start off with some breath work. Check 1, 2. Y'all. I think we are here now. What's good, y'all? Welcome to another episode of Zen AM. I'm your host, Nehemiah. We do not have Darian today, so y'all stuck with me. It is Friday, June 19th. Everybody, this month is just going by so fast. We are we pretty much now into we pretty much in July, y'all. I don't know how y'all feeling, but it's going by way too fast. I mean, we talked about this, right? We talked about time being our ally, right? So if we are moving along with time, then it feels good, right? It feels good if we're moving along with time. But if we are not moving along with time, it does feel like it's going too fast. So to me, I mean, I'm enjoying it. I got a few projects that I feel like I've been doing a few projects, but not a whole lot, but it does feel like it's going by fast. We got On Pam in the building. What up? So today is going to be, one of those shows. I'm going to be communicating with y'all a lot. We're going to be going back and forth. This is going to be an open conversation between all of us. Y'all know whenever do the show solo, it's going to, be a lot of back and forth. So we're gonna be communicating a lot. What up, Boo Man? What up? So it's gonna be one of those shows where we really gonna be vibing with each other, y'all. And if y'all got any questions, we'll jump into questions. If y'all have any topics y'all want to discuss, we'll do that. It's gonna be just a real good free range show for us. You know what I mean? We still gonna get it in. But one thing that we have not done in a while is some breath work. So we're gonna get into some breath work. Yeah, what up, Numerology Nation? What up, Pinky? We got our family up in here. It's gonna be a good show, y'all. It's gonna be a good show. I could feel, you sometimes just feel it, right? So I could feel all of y'all energy. I'm gonna be communicating with y'all often, so I'm gonna need y'all energy back and forth just like we did last time. But we can go ahead and get into some breath work, y'all. Get a nice reset. It's Friday. I know a lot of us, we talk about this, how the days just kind of can run together. So sometimes it's good to have that separation in between the days, for us just to kind of stay intentional, just for us to kind of just stay fully tuned in and present, because sometimes, man, I'll wake up, it's Monday, and then I'll go to sleep and it's Sunday night. And I don't know if anybody else feel that way, but that's the way that it be feeling sometimes. So I'll be like, I gotta have that separation, y'all. So we're gonna get into some breath work that kind of anchors us into the time in the present. So we're gonna go ahead and roll those shoulders back. Go ahead and start to release that tension. Y'all know this is where we keep a lot of our stress, is all up in this upper area. A lot of the daily stress we keep in our jaw, we keep in our neckline and stuff. So go ahead and roll those shoulders back. Deep breath in through the nose. Hold it. Release. Deep breath in through the nose. Hold it. Release. Deep breath in through the nose. Hold it. Release. One more. Deep breath in through the nose. Hold it. Release. All right. So we are here, y'all. I know a lot of us, we was talking about getting some homework in I know we could go on to that. I was wondering if anybody ended up doing any of their homework. Did any of us end up doing our homework? We'll go into that. I know I did. And, I was really thinking about this. What is more important, right? Is freedom more important, or is money more important? And can they go hand in hand, right? Like, if you were presented with a opportunity to get like your job was like, look, we're going to pay you $1 million salary, right? We're going to pay you $1 million salary, but we pretty much own all of your time, right? Like, you won't really be able to create your own schedule. You will be on our schedule. We'll throw stuff on your calendar, X, Y, and Z. We kind of control the time that you see with your family. We control your vacation time. We control, we control all that. But you will have all of the money that you ever need, right? You'll never have to work again. Your family will be set. Your family's family will be set. Your future grandkids will be set. All of them will be set, right? But that comes at, you work for us now, right? Like, you are on our team now, but money wise, you'll never have to worry again. You could, whatever dream car you didn't ever thought about in your head, you could have multiple dream cars. Whatever house you didn't thought about in your head, your dream house, you can have that. You can take your kids to the finest schools. You can do all that, right? Is that a deal that y'all would take? I'm curious. I would love to know, because I think there's a little bit of freedom in there, but it's not for you, right? Like, if your family's taken care of, then technically they have some freedom. But for you locked in, right? So I would love to know what y'all thoughts on that. Is that something, would you take that deal, right? Would you take that deal knowing that the next 2 or 3 generations after you would be solid? They wouldn't have to want for nothing. Is that something that y'all would take? Boom Man jumped in. We got somebody new in here. You new? Is it Michael? Is 01? What up? Shout out to Numerology Nation. She did her homework. 100%. Okay. She says, money provides freedom, but as I say, you are dumb. It's free. I'm a free dumb. So, I do believe 100% that money provides freedom. I think that one of the biggest misconceptions that I hear often is that money is the root of all evil, right? I don't think that. I don't think that money brings evil. But what I do think is that money brings out of us what we already are. That's what I feel like. I feel like money brings to us what we already are. It's going to, money doesn't have a personality, but when you put $1 into someone's hand, now it takes the form of that person. You know what I'm saying? So I don't ever believe that money truly is the root of all evil. I think that money doesn't change us. I think that it really does make us who we really are. And it opens us up to see who we really are. That's just my opinion. I would love to see what y'all take is on that. But that's just my opinion. I think that is going to show us who we are. You give somebody a bunch of money and then go see. And then go see where they, see how they act, see what they do. That's who they are. it's not the money that's making them that way. So I never really believed that money is the root of all evil. And sometimes they'll try to like make us believe that, right? They'll try to make us believe that some of these things that unlock our freedom are evil so that we don't tap into them. They're real good at that, aren't they? They're real good at that. So I love to hear what y'all are saying in here. With freedom, I can make unlimited money. Ain't that right? Do most of us have that salary in our head that this is the amount that I know I'm good, right? Because I think so many of us work, but have we created that number? I can't remember what movie it was. Was that American Gangster when they was talking about what's your exit amount? Do we have that set amount that's in our head that we say, okay, this is the goal that I know that I need to take care of me and my family? I'm curious, like, do y'all have that number in your head? I kind of have that number in my head. It's a little bit different for me just because I don't have kids and stuff, right? But I would love to hear if y'all have that kind of number. And I just want to know what y'all numbers are, especially living in America. Living in America, that changes that number because America is such a rat race. The wage that we get in America, if we were to take that to other places and other countries, it would go way further. If you take a salary like even 50, 60,000, if you were to take a salary like that to Thailand, to Portugal, right? You live in beachfront. You live in an active life, especially a place like Thailand or Bali or Mexico. I'm curious about Mexico. I know like the numbers change, but even in Mexico, you are living a high quality life. You are able to go out often. You are able to eat out often. You're able to travel. I think in Europe, they even have it to where you're not allowed to work over 60 hours a week. So some places they really focus on that work-life balance, right? America doesn't. America is a corporation, so there is no work-life balance. We reward the people who spend most of their time working. And I feel like the older I get, the more I change that. But I'm just curious, what is some of y'all numbers? Y'all don't, I just want to know, especially like family people, because it changes. It changes. You know, I think most of us, at least when I speak about myself, millionaires always like the thing that I want to be a millionaire. I want to make $1 million. And at one point in my life, when I started to kind of look at money, I was like, $1 million is a lot of money. And then as you get older, you start to see $1 million isn't a lot of money. $1 million is not a whole lot of money. It is a great deal of money if you know what to do with it. But if you're living in a place like California, if you're living in a place like Florida, that can go very, very quick. And I mean, let's look at Floyd Mayweather, right? Floyd Mayweather, I don't know if y'all heard this recently, but Floyd Mayweather, is potentially being charged with counterfeit? He wrote, was it 1 or 2 bad checks? He wrote a bad check for a watch, and I think it was about $200K. I think it was one, but he is facing 2 felony counts, right? And we look at, he made over $1 billion. So making over $1 billion in your lifetime and generating over $1 billion in your lifetime, you should be able to have 200,000. You absolutely should. Like, a person should not go through $1 billion in their lifetime. But this person did. Floyd did. So we see that the value of money, it can go. So $1 million is not a lot of money in that sense. But it is, if you live a very mediocre life, like if you're living off of 50,000, 60,000 a year, $1 million is a lot of money, especially if you're generating it. Not if you just have it, not if you just get a million once. It's not. But if you're generating $1 million a year and your cost of living is 30, 40, 50,000, that million can go far. You could retire off of that in a short amount of time. You could retire in about 5 or 6 years. It takes about 3 million in the bank, I believe. You need about 3 million in your retirement to be able to live off of that interest. Was it like 6 to 8% interest? 3 million to make you, what's that, like 6 figures? I think it's like 6 figures a year. So you got a lot of options to be able to live off of that million. So I think that when I look at money like that, it changes. You could do a lot with it. It says money can lock you down as a slave just as much as it can give you freedom. That's true, because you're right about that. I think we underestimate how many of us become a slave to money. And we look at a lot of these athletes. Floyd Mayweather, for instance. I think, didn't like DeRozan just come out or something talking about how he's negative 200K, something like that. We look at these people who at their height made millions and millions and millions, right? They made millions, and we look less than 20 years later are in debt. And we've seen that a lot of times too with people where they've made a lot of money, but they end up in a worse situation than they were before they got the money. And isn't that wild? We see that. And I think you're right, Boo Man, that it can lock you in as a slave, especially in those senses, because you do become a slave to the money. You become a slave to the lifestyle that it brings. And what happens a lot of times is when we start getting more money, what do? We raise our cost of living, right? Like it happens all the time, especially with the middle class. We don't really have a middle class too much in America as much as we used to. That middle class has definitely been eradicated. But when we look at the typical middle class of what it was, it's like when the dad and the mom get that raise, the first thing that they want to do is they want to go get that new home. And then a lot of times what happens is when people go get that new home, they also want to get the new car to match, right? Like they want to get the car to match. But now, if anyone has ever tried to buy a home, they have what's called debt to income ratio. And the first thing that the bank is going to tell you is to don't make any new purchases so that your debt to income is lower. And basically they're going to look at what you owe compared to what you make. And a lot of people, when they're in that new home buying phase, they tend to want to go and buy a car. And they be like, don't make any purchases right now. Like that's what that bank is going to, don't make no purchases right now to keep that debt to income ratio down. But a lot of people do become a slave and to that money. And when they increase their income, they increase their cost of living. And if anybody has ever, studied like financial literacy or anything like that, the main thing that's taught is you have to increase your income, but then lower your cost of living. And nowadays that's tough with inflation and gas and all of that. And we see what's happening with Iran, all of that stuff. It changes. It changes. We don't know where the gas prices is going to go. We don't know where any of that is going to go, but you're absolutely right. Money can turn you into a slave, and the lifestyle that it brings, we start to, like, I feel like, especially with somebody like Floyd, he called himself Money Mayweather. So he had to always show us what he was making. He had to always keep that backpack of X, Y, and Z amount of money. And I remember I was, when he was fighting Conor McGregor, and I went to one of their press conference tours, and Money's always had a backpack. I think Floyd like snatched the Ireland flag or something, and then Connor snatched his backpack with the money in it. He opened it up. He's like, "There's like $1,500 in here." So we started seeing it early on with that. He says evil is the root of evil. Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that 100%. Money is not the root of evil. Evil is the root of evil. Says, I have the numbers for me and my family, and the numbers to rule the world. What does rule the world mean to you? What does that mean? I'm curious as to what does rule the world mean? And I don't know about y'all, but with this crypto and all of that, it does seem like they might be pushing us to a one income, like with the crypto and the digital currency and all that. It does feel like they might be pushing us to that, to one form of income. And if they do that, y'all know that's when we starting to look at some, if they push us towards that, it's going to change. And I could definitely see that. But yeah, I'm curious what you mean, like rule the world. And most people don't account for taxes either. Yeah, when you make money, right? And I was one of those people too. I didn't account for taxes. If I made $1,000, I made $1,000. But I actually, like, I was never paying taxes, right? Like, I ended up getting my wages garnished at one point when I was in my early 20s. I had no idea. I didn't know about taxes. No one taught me. I think probably the worst advice I got at one point was, oh, you don't make enough to file taxes, when I was like 17, 18, 19. So that just stuck with me, and I just didn't pay taxes. And I always say, yeah, I don't know what my thinking was at the time, but I was just unaware and uneducated in that sense. And you really do have to equate for those taxes, y'all. Like, if you make $1,000, you didn't make $1,000. You made, at most, depending on how you have your taxes laid out and any deductibles, you made at most 800, right? Like, most of us made 600 or 700 at best. So the way that you have your taxes wrote out will change that, but you don't. Like, the IRS is going to want their money. And I think that was one of the fights that Trump was trying to do, right? Like, with sue the IRS and stuff. I mean, that's one of the few things that would help the common man. That's one of the few things that would help the common man, is because, we technically should not be taxed on our labor, right? Like, that technically should be illegal. But then when you go to other countries, sometimes their taxes are higher, I think like 40 something percent, but they do have different things that we don't, which is like universal health care. They have some really good government funded projects, to where what happened to, was it the SNAP people? Like, was that this year when SNAP people couldn't get their SNAP, and they got rid of some of Social Security and stuff? That doesn't happen in other countries. So you are, in some countries, paying a higher tax, but for the most part, you can see where that tax is going to, because they do have some really, really good government funded plans that just won't go away. And also, in a lot of countries, the homeless number isn't as large as ours is. And we're going to see what's going to happen, y'all, because with this new Iran deal, I don't know if anybody is hip to that, but that could change a lot. I have to did anybody research that at all? Like, what's going on with that? Because I am extremely curious as to what type of effect that will have on the common man, right? We know what the most basic outline was. I think it was like a 14-point deal or something like that. But I'm always curious as to how does that trickle down to us? So with the Iran war, for instance, we ended up paying more. Gas and inflation and, all these prices for us just went back up. where at one point they did go down. But I'm always curious as to, what that'd do. But you gotta always think of taxes. You gotta keep those taxes in the back of your mind and keep a tax account, right? And I tried after I got hit with that. I had to create like a whole deal with the IRS, and I had to file taxes on time for a certain amount of years, and I had to get into shape with them, and I did, and it took me a while, but once I did, it gave me that education and that conditioning to whenever I make this, put this aside. Whenever I make this, put this aside. So, what I would recommend for people, if y'all haven't done this, is get you a high interest savings account, right? Get you a high interest yielding savings account. That, or you can even do a CD. So, one of the best ways to do it is if you can get yourself a CD, and basically that means that you put money in, but you can't take it out for a certain amount of time. And typically when you do that, it incurs like a lot more interest. So this is turning into a financial literacy episode. That's what it feels like. It's turning into a financial literacy episode. When you put your money into a checking account, right? It may yield 0.5%, 1%, right? So your money isn't really making you any money. But then when you go to a high yielding savings account, it's now that money is making you more money, right? So you might be able to get one between 3 and 5%, meaning that for the amount of money that you have in there, that thing's going to generate 3 to 5% of the total amount. So if you have $1,000, if you have $100 in there, that 100 is going to make you was 3% of 100. It was like $3, something like that. Maybe 30. It's like 3 or 30. I don't know. I'm bad with percentages. So you put it in a high interest yielding account, and they have those, like Vanguard, Goldman and Sachs, those types of things. A lot of times you won't get them at the regular banks like Chase or Wells Fargo, anything like that. But then they have the CDs. So if you're able to say you make that $1,000, right? Take 600 of it, right? Take 600 of it and then put that into a CD, especially if you made it early on in the year. And you know that because some of them are like 13 months, 6 months, they have their times where you can't touch it, but it'll generate interest for you. So if you take that 600 and put it into a CD for 6 months or something, it might get you like 7% interest. So now that money that you would have had to just give away to taxes now can make you some money. So now you can turn that money into money for yourself. So now you're not just saying bye-bye to $400, right? That $400 might make you $100. Now you are able to increase what your money is making you, and you don't have to give so much back. So that right there is a little hack, especially when it comes, to the taxes. These are things that we aren't really taught. They don't really show us. They tell us to put our money into a checking account. Having your money in a checking account does nothing. It doesn't generate anything. Because when you look at money that's sitting in an account, the reason why it does nothing is because the value of the dollar goes down, right? So if your $5 is sitting in an account for a certain amount of time, it's not going to be worth $5. It's going to be maybe worth $4.50 or $4, based off of where the American dollar is at that time. So you technically lose money by having it in a checking account. So I don't know if y'all was hip to this. I know we started going on a whole financial literacy side. Sometimes we don't know where we're going with this show, right? We don't know where we're going with the show. But that is kind of one of the ways that you can start to make sure that when you put your money away for the taxes, it at least generates something. And you can start to condition yourself to not be in a position to where at the end of the year you owe a lot. And it happens often to where if we just spend that money and we be like, I'm gonna put it back, I'm gonna do this. A lot of times we don't. So just put it away. Just put it away early on. Says if I ruled the world, people would be scared. Why would they be scared? Why would they be scared? It's the same here. I learned the hard way about taxes. I mean, I feel like so many of us have learned the hard way when it comes to taxes. It's like we learn so late. And that's one of the hard things about, like the minority world. We do not get hip to this stuff until we have to learn the hard way. And that's so tough. I have friends of all races. I have friends of all social classes, and that's one of the things, because it's not even just a minority thing, but it is predominantly, especially in the Black households. I can't speak for others, but in the Black household, we aren't taught this. We are not taught this. In the Black household, we are conditioned to see people live check to check. So we start to get into that mode of it's okay to live check to check. It's okay to live check to check, but that is not okay. It's not. And it makes it tough, one, if that's the conditioning that you had, because you don't know that there's a better way. And it takes sacrifice to get there. You have to, early on, you got to get yourself a nest egg, and it takes sacrifice. You can't spend in areas that you might want to. You can't go to Starbucks anymore. You can't be spending $25 to go out to lunch. You got to hold on to your money until you have a nest egg. And we're not taught that, right? In the minority household, a lot of times we're taught to spend money on the things that we want because we're so used to not having. And when we get our money, sometimes we got to split the bills, and we're like, I'm not going to pay this bill this month. I'm going to go out and get some shoes because I haven't done for me in a while. So we kind of get into that mode of paying this bill, not paying this bill this month, letting this roll over, but yet we'll still go ahead and, go out to eat, go meet up with somebody, go get some shoes, go do this, go do this. So this is kind of the cycle that happens in the Black household, and it happens more often than not. So, we can start to break that. We can start to break that. And financial freedom is one of the most important ways to be able to break that. And I think it goes back to us talking about, like, there is freedom when it comes to money, but money doesn't just make you free. You have to understand financial freedom first, because you could make $1 million a year and be in major debt. There's somebody who's making $1 million a year, and there's somebody who's making 200,000 a year, and that person who is making 200,000 is in a better position than the person making $1 million. And it's all based off of financial literacy and understanding what to do with your money, how to spend it, where it should go, all of that. And this is something that we just aren't taught this at all. And a lot of us don't learn until our late 20s, our early 30s, our mid 30s. So now we're playing catch up, right? Now we're not only taking this information and we're just now learning financial literacy, but we also got to play catch up. And then now we're kind of starting to learn, but because we're playing catch up, we don't have extra money to start to build. And it happens so more often than not. And this financial literacy piece of it is one of the things that will allow financial freedom. If you don't have the financial literacy part, then you'll never be able to get financial freedom with money. So I put money away for taxes. It's a bill just like car insurance. Mark. Education will be free and kids will decide their path based off of their passion and skills. You think education, what you mean by education will be free? You're talking about like college? Because the internet, YouTube University, and also all of these books is cheaper than college. And college is changing. I don't think that people are, and I could be wrong, I don't think that people are running to college like that anymore, depending on, what field they want to get in. I think that if I probably were to look, we have less people signing up for college, but there are still some you know, careers where you have to go to college, doctors, lawyers, surgeons. There's a lot of places, but anything with like business, you can learn a lot right now just off of YouTube, just off of taking courses. And this is becoming the time of the courses, right? Like this is becoming the era of you finding somebody who is doing exactly what you want to do in life. And a lot of times they have material on YouTube and stuff, and then they offer courses. So now this is becoming a time of you being able to learn your trade directly. And, trade schools at one point were pretty dope, but they were looked at bad. They were also for profit for a lot of them. So a lot of them started scamming people, right? So I think that the new look of trade and trade schools is now courses. I think that right there is what that has evolved into. And it's cool to see because I've taken courses myself, right? I take multiple courses. I've taken a course on everything from real estate investment. I took a course. Who was it? What's our brethren name? Morris. Y'all know the dude? What's his name? Drawing a blank, but it's the black dude Morris. He did he had his, and I think he ended up scamming some people. I got to look, allegedly scamming some people. I got to see, but I took his course and I took it during COVID, and, I learned a lot. I took a producer course with James Hype, and I learned so much with that. I learned how to produce. So, sometimes YouTube, it gets you here and there, but between YouTube and courses, telling y'all, man, that is the new wave right there. And you can learn so much more because when you go to college, they got you doing all types of gen eds, right? Got you studying all types of stuff because you got to pay for those and keep you here. And then at the JC, you got to do this, and this. And I think that time is, that's slowly coming to an end, y'all. I could be wrong, but I think that time is slowly coming to an end. I said, happy Juneteenth, y'all. Happy Juneteenth. Did y'all works give y'all Juneteenth off, or is it racist if a company does not celebrate Juneteenth? Is it? I want to know what y'all think. And is it more racist for a company to not celebrate Juneteenth, or is it more racist for a company to not celebrate Martin Luther King Day? Right? Which one? I'm curious. I want to get y'all take on that. How would I rule the world? I don't think I would want to rule the world, honestly. I don't want that. But if I did rule the world, I would definitely make sure that everyone's basic needs were met. I would make sure that everyone had access to specific things, healthcare, mental health care, food, water, shelter, clothing. And I don't think that this is a place that's meant to not have quote unquote evil in it, right? I think that this is a place because we have free will. There has to be some type of evil so that we are put into places where we have to make tough decisions and we have to choose paths. And I think that that's where our free will comes in. So I wouldn't make this a place to where it's all good. I would keep it like it is now, but I will allow people's basic needs to be met, because I think what happens is that if most of your life is spent just trying to make your basic needs met, then sometimes it makes it tougher for you to get out of survival mode and into thrive mode. And I think that if those basic things were met, I mean, we watched our grandmama work multiple jobs. I think all of us right now, if I were to have kids, right now, they would see their dad working multiple things to try to bring money in because the cost of living is so expensive, right? If I had kids right now, the money that I make, it would not be enough to take care of a family. So, it just wouldn't be like to have my family comfortable. It wouldn't. And I think that that's one of the reasons why I don't have kids is because I would not be able to raise a family on my income. My wife would have, I don't want my wife to have to work. I want her to choose to work, but not have to. I do love the idea of, of not needing to send our kids to daycare if we don't have to, and having a bunch of strangers raise my kids. And then when they come home, I have to try to retrain them and see what it is that they were trained and taught on to make sure that it aligns with our family values. So that's one thing that I would not want. So for me, it would really just be about making sure that everyone's basic needs are met and still allowing everything to kind of be the way it is, because I feel like the Most High created everything the way it is. And I think that, based off of what we read and stuff, it's almost a line and it has to go this way. But if we had our basic needs met, I think that there will be a lot of people who would have been able to make better decisions because they didn't have to make these decisions out of desperation, out of lack, right? Just like they say, don't go to the grocery store hungry, right? I say a lot of times we go out into the world hungry. So it affects the way that we make decisions. It affects the way that we do things. Look at how many young brothers and sisters, especially in places like Baltimore and stuff, who don't even have, like electricity and don't have running water and living in row houses and boarded up and stuff. It happens more often than we see. So I think that that's going to affect their decision making. When somebody is offering you a way out of there and you haven't had the parental structure to be able to understand what is right or wrong because your parents weren't around, I think that that plays a major part in a lot of people, especially in America. It plays a major part in the decisions that we make. So if those things were able to be met, I think that we would see people making better decisions. And it's not to say that, we're going to be in the world that we need everything needs to be good and there needs to be no bad. I don't believe that. I think that you need the yin and the yang. You need both energies. And that allows us to always be at that fork, right? Where we go left or we go right, but we make better decisions when we're not influenced like that. Said I took a 100% building my courses because people pay me to learn about how I see right there, how I do numerology. Says, yes, it's racist if they don't celebrate Juneteenth, but who isn't racist nowadays? That's crazy. That's crazy, right? Like, it feels like nowadays everybody got a little bit of racism to them, right? Numerology, you in here today. You are in here today. It says that's what works for our house. What works? What works for your household, boo man? I jumped in and said a few things. What part, like, what part you talking about works? Is it the area of you, bringing home the bread and allowing Pinky to be able to stay back? Is that what you're talking about? Because I jumped on some tangents. Homeschooling has been such a blessing. Are you homeschooling your kids right now? Is that what you're doing with your kids? And be lack. And that's what it could be. That's what it could be. If we, and this happens to so many people, not even just blacks, I think that originally it kind of started that way, but America kind of broke into a classism. And I think that it's more of a classism now than a racism, but the racism still exists, but I think that the class system is in place a little tiny bit higher because a minority with a lot of money, depending on what area they're in, will be treated better than one of our Caucasian brothers and sisters with not a lot of money. So I think that the class system plays a major role in, especially because America's a corporation. Before, absolutely. I think when we look at like the 60s, the 50s, and our parents' time, money didn't matter. It didn't matter. And actually, if you were a Black person with money, it actually put a bigger target on your back. And I think nowadays, there's still that target. There still is, but, you know, you will be treated differently if you have money. You will. And a lot of times it could be better. And a lot of times when we get that money, we expect a certain amount of treatment. You see it all the time when these celebrities get pulled over or something, and these rich people get pulled over. You know, they have a level of entitlement, no matter what race they are. You know, back in the day, that couldn't happen. If he was Black, it didn't matter if he was rich or not. I mean, we look at people like Black Jack Johnson, right? The boxer of the time, who would get pulled over and we get treated as if he was not the greatest boxer at the time. And, you know, I think we're fortunate enough not to live in that time, but there's absolutely still racism. I mean, you know, America was built on, I mean, it's like systemic racism, right? It's like systemic. So our system still has multiple areas of racism in it that are still prevalent today. And a lot of the minority families have started the race way behind. And it's up to each generation to try to make up that gap. And that's what, I mean, our generation is with our family. We're trying to make up that gap, especially our family, you know, roots being from Baltimore. So there's that gap we are trying to make up for. So there's a lot of things we had to do in our generation to change what our parents did, because our parents didn't really have financial literacy. Our parents didn't really have financial freedom. So we started that race. We did not start at the same place as, you know, the people that I went to school with. I was way behind them. Where if we look at where we started, way behind them, they knew about savings. They knew, not only did they know, but they had savings. They had investments already without them even knowing it. They had trust funds already without them even knowing it. They had none of that. So, you know, most of us definitely did. And it's crazy. This show's turned into a finance, and I love it. I love talking finances because I feel like, you know, this is something that we don't really talk about a lot, you know, and it's something that we do need more education. So it's dope that this show kind of took like that financial literacy turn, because I love talking finances, y'all. I could talk finances all day because I've done extensive study in this area because of always being behind and always learning the hard way, right? I'm always learning the hard way when it comes to finances. So I've always had to teach myself and dig myself out of major holes when it comes to the financial literacy side of things. So yeah, absolutely. Okay. I'm gonna go to that comment. So yeah, y'all doing the homeschooling and stuff. So that's dope. So Pink, you get to stay home with them. Thank goodness our kids are in a great school, but also we teach them at home too about life lessons, our history and family history. Do y'all feel as though every single time they come home, you have to like be super active with them and be like, what did you learn today? And then you have to potentially correct certain things because you say they're in a good school. So I'm like, because to me, when I think about future kids, I'm like, well, would make a great school, right? I have these certain boxes that would need to be checked. Obviously, safety is one of them. Cleanliness is another one. But then I also truly think about what the lessons are and what they're teaching. I feel like that right there would be also one of those high boxes. So I'm curious, like, what kind of stuff are they teaching them in the school? Because I know that we looked at that one video when we were talking about the math, right? And how different they're trying to teach kids math, and how, you know, these kids aren't even learning calligraphy and cursive anymore. So are these, you know, are these charter schools and all of that, are they doing much better with the education? And then I know, have y'all heard about these schools where like the kids spend most of the time outside? Are y'all familiar with those schools? Because, I'm so far removed from that side of life without having any kids that I haven't had to think about that kind of stuff. And I feel very fortunate that I haven't, but I also feel like I'm not very educated in that area. So I don't know. I don't know what the kids is learning nowadays. I don't know what they learning. I don't know what they doing. I don't know what's hip. I don't know what's not hip. So, I'm very curious as to that. And then, so with the homeschoolment numerology, are you the one teaching them? Because back in the day, when we knew anybody who was homeschooled, they had like a teacher come to their house and teach them. Like that was what we knew about homeschooling. But I think that there's also been a shift to where a lot of the parents are doing it themselves. So I'm curious, like, when we're talking homeschool, are we talking about it because we now get to choose who the teacher is and we get to hand select them? Or is it because we're teaching them and we're teaching them what we want to know? And I think the biggest stigma with that is that the kids don't get socialized correctly. But I don't think that's true. And I could be wrong. I think that there's a lot of ways to socialize a kid. I don't think that you need to. I think schools can sometimes institutionalize a kid. I think that, yeah, you get the socialization, but sometimes it is a form of institution. Like when we look at the way that public schools and stuff are set up, a lot of them are set up like prisons, like the food that they feed them, the lunch area, the cafeteria, the white walls, the hallways, the bells. A lot of that is institutionalizing kids. So, I'm definitely curious about that take. Says they are in a good school, but we teach our own values and concepts. This is a tech house, so the tech is first. School is actually too slow. That was always my issue. I always felt like I would just be bored in school because it was just too slow. I think having kids read out loud and then little Timmy can't read, and I'm just sitting there bored, like I didn't already read this whole chapter and Timmy is still on line 3. So now I gotta make my brain not bored because I'm just sitting here like forced to listen to little Timmy read, and he can't. And we know when they calling out people's names to read out loud, we know it's going to be, now we getting. So that was something that was my issue. It wasn't that I didn't like school. I just felt like it was too slow. So I'm definitely curious about that. And then are they teaching financial literacy in schools now? Because the schools that we didn't learn financial literacy. You had to learn that at home. Are they teaching about credit? Are they teaching about savings accounts? Are they teaching about investment accounts? Because then, we're also, when it comes to that, we started way behind so many people. That was one of the areas that we were way behind. So I'm definitely curious about that. They have websites, and I build a curriculum and lesson plans alongside what the state requires for a grade. Okay, so the state to give you the requirement for the grade. That's dope. And we do a lot of letting them explore. We don't want them to just lose their genius. That is a very, very unique point, because do y'all feel like a lot of these schools and stuff are forcing kids to lose their geniuses, right? Especially public schools or people who can't afford good schools and all of that. That I did not even think about that, but I can see, because they do it in music. They've done it in film and stuff. They've really dumbed a lot of us down. And they've dumbed down our attention spans with this doom scrolling, with all of that. You're right. They really, really, really have gotten to a point where we get dumbed down. So I did not think about that when it comes to, the kids and stuff. That is a very, very, very solid point that you make here. I like that. And like I said, these are things that I had never thought about. So y'all educating me today. Y'all educating me. And then that financial literacy part, like, where are we learning that? Like, are we even in a position to yeah, to, to even be able to teach our kids that. School outside of a Montessori school teaches kids to work for somebody. Yeah. Those Montessori schools, in those Montessori schools, those are the ones that are your kids in a Montessori school, because, those are the ones that those kids be learning like Mandarin at at, at 3 and 4 years old. I know a few parents who put their kids in the Montessori schools, and those obviously they cost a lot, but those are like what the future leaders that we have, right? When you know better, you do better. So the people who know about Montessori schools are putting their kids in Montessori schools. And a lot of times they're people who are in good positions, who they've got to kind of see the way and the lay of the land. And those Montessori schools are power. But outside of that, you're saying that it teaches you to work for somebody. And that's the institutionalization part, right? Like, they teach us, one, to not be free thinkers. And this is just me speaking about when I went to school. I could just kind of remember. It's been so long, but I can just kind of remember. They teach you not to be a free thinker. They teach you not to speak out of line. It's really teaching you to always obey and listen, right? Listen to this person, listen to this bell, sit in this seat for a certain amount of hours. If you get out of this seat, then you will be disciplined. You get this a little amount of time of outside time. The rest of the time you're stuck inside. The rest of the time you have to sit and learn things that you probably will never use ever again. The rest of the time, their curriculum. And then we look at what the Maxwells, right? They're the ones who wrote a lot of our curriculum. I don't know if they still have if they're still influencing that, but they wrote a lot of our curriculum growing up. And we see now that curriculum was corrupted. So we see now, and that's, just see Maxwell's dad was part of that. And he was a spy. So we had a spy writing and influencing most of the curriculum that we read growing up. So when we look at that, like, you're absolutely right. Like, outside of those Montessori schools, like, what are we learning? What are we really, really learning? Are we being brainwashed? Are we meant to learn? Are we meant to be free thinkers? Are we meant to challenge and question, quote unquote authority? I don't think so much. I don't think so much. So yeah. Let's see. Kids in our kids school does. They actually have it where we can sign our kids up for a kid's bank account with First Financial Bank. Monthly, they are able to deposit money into their account. See, y'all doing it right. Y'all doing it right. See, y'all putting me onto a lot of stuff, and that's dope. I remember grandma had to take me to get my first savings account when I was younger. Our schools didn't teach that. And I went to some good schools. It was still public schools, but I went to some good schools. I went in Diamond Bar, and great school system. Definitely better than than a lot of school systems. A lot of those people went on to do great things, and I went to Rancho, and then I got kicked out of every single school that I went to. So my learning was always disrupted, and I was always kicked out longer than, my constituents. Like, I got into a fight with this one kid in fifth grade, and I was kicked out. He wasn't. But there was something to that I learned is disrupting the education pattern for me. Whereas not just, they understood that education pattern disruption of putting me behind. So even though I may be in the same class as them, if they remove me for 3 weeks, if I get suspended for this amount of time, they take me out of school for a month. Now I'm behind everybody. And that was something that always happened to me. I always got kicked out. So I always ended up being behind everybody in the class. And even up until high school, because I got kicked out multiple times, I was behind everybody as a senior, senior year, everybody graduating. I'm still behind a whole semester. So I had to take summer school. I had to do this. So I was always playing catch up. And I feel like that's kind of the pattern for, a lot of minorities. And obviously, I'm not saying that none of this was my fault at all, but I think that, there's something to that, keeping us in a form of catch up, right? Like keeping us behind in the race. That's kind of the idea, is just to make sure that we never pass them. And that's the whole goal of systemic racism. That's the whole fear of us getting into power. That's always been the fear that if blacks were to get into power, they're going to do to the oppressors what the oppressors did to us. And that's always been the fear. That's the reason why they don't like minorities gathering together. That's the reason why, we had things like redlining in Kansas City and Missouri. That's the reason why we had things like Black Wall Street getting burned down. There was always that fear for the oppressor that karma is going to bite us, and it's going to bite us hard. But I think that karma comes in a different life. I don't know if that karma necessarily needs to come in this life. And we don't think the same way as most people who have been oppressed do not think the same way as their oppressor. And they don't know that, right? They just don't know that. And that fear has kept so much systemic racism in place. So many things. Even to this day in this court system, you will be judged differently based off of the color of your skin, based on your background, based on all of this. You will. Harsher sentences. I mean, it's facts, it's stats that, Black people get harsher sentences than other people. It just is what it is. Black people fill more prisons. Just is what it is. That's that whole thing of constantly keeping us behind. And there's also accountability, obviously, that comes into role with all of us. We have to, and it sucks, but we always have to learn to be better and beat the system, but not beat it in the way that our parents beat it. We have to beat it by learning it, right? We have to beat it by learning it and not trying to break the matrix, but learn the matrix to be able to control it. And I think that a lot of times, it's easy for us to say, F the police, right? They don't do anything. They'll never do anything for us. It's harder for us to do like our little cousin is doing and join the police department and make the change from the inside. It's easy for us to say these politicians don't do nothing for us, so F them. It's harder for us to vote and to learn politics enough to become a political player enough to change it from the inside. We've been so trained to think that change comes from the outside, and this is a microcosm of life, right? Change does not come from the outside. Change comes from within. And we have to change ourselves in order to change the world. But I think that for so long, we have been brainwashed to not be a part of the system because it doesn't love us, right? The system doesn't love us, so don't be a part of it. But when, sometimes the way to make it love you is to be a part of it and join it so that you can start being the thing that gives the love that it lacks, right? So it's so easy. I mean, look at all of these little YNs right now. Imagine if they were to start picking up these books and learning how to be political soldiers. Imagine if some of them started to go to the military. Imagine if we started to change the way of the military. Imagine if a lot of them started to join the police force. Imagine if we then started to change the police force. We do it in sports. Look at the NBA. We do it in sports. NBA didn't start out the way it is. NBA was not all Black people. It was not. But once we got in, it started to influence the ones on the outside. Like, oh, I could do that too. So for me, I feel like that's one of the things that Obama should have done for a lot of young minorities, is be able to see like, oh, this is a potential goal, right? And we're not in that position. Like Biggie used to say, it's either you sell crack rock or you got a wicked jump shot. We're no longer there, right? My little cousin is in the Baltimore police force. Like, that's my little cousin. He is officially on the inside making change. This is what our cousin Nicole, rest in power, who wanted to do. Our cousin Josh, he used to be a fighter, and now, he's a lawyer. So now he's doing a different type of fight. So how many of us are called to do a different kind of fight? How many of us are willing to change the fight that we do to be able to create lasting change, right? And I think that's why the change starts from within. We can't just be sitting here like, F these people, F the power, F that. No. We can't do that. We have to learn to fight smarter. And when let's look at the movie The Matrix, right? Morpheus and Neo and all of them, they wasn't fighting the Matrix on the outside. They had to plug in. And go into the Matrix and fight it from there. They never ever, they never could fight it from the outside and fight these agents on the outside. They didn't exist on the outside. They had to go into their world. And many of us are afraid to do that. So we look at that and we look at how much change can come, but the microcosm of that is that change first comes inside. And I think that's the biggest thing, that especially with these school systems and our kids and all of that, that's the biggest thing that I personally would teach if I had kids, is that 99.9% of change comes from within. Absolutely. Oh, yeah, we going in today. Y'all. Said, and these are the conversations we have with our kids. I can't even imagine how bright y'all kids are. Between Boom, I can't even imagine. I can't even imagine. Police came after slavery was ended. They had to find a way to still have slaves. Prison pipeline. Yeah. Well, it was officially, before slavery ended, it was the overseers. So those were the first officers, right? It went from overseer to officer. So it really started during slavery. It just transformed to something different after slavery. So the overseers were the ones to make sure that we didn't get runaway slaves, that we didn't get, like they were the ones patrolling that. That wasn't Massa. Massa just ran the plantation. But it was the overseers who would chase down the slaves, do a lot of, the punishments and all of that. So you're absolutely right. That turned into officer. So, and that's the reason why, even with the court systems, that's the reason why, even with the police systems and all of that, that it does have a lot of systemic racism in it, is because of the foundation of it. And we look at the foundation of the political parties, right? The Democrats started like that, and the Republicans started because they wanted to abolish slavery. So we look at the foundation of a lot of these things and where they come from, but we then look at what change can happen. And the more we get into politics, the more we start to get seats in the Senate, in the House, the more that we become police officers, the less we try to keep being entertainers, the less we keep trying to be basketball players, the more we become scientists, the more we become pilots, the more we become all of these things. Like, it will be a radical change. And I think that's a bigger fear, right, to the system, right? And that's the reason why they put a lot of these things in place, to where you can't have a jail record, you can't have this, so that they can create the ceiling. And once they create the ceiling, they don't got to worry about you. It's the same thing with the fleas, right? You put fleas in a jar, you put the top on the jar, they'll only jump. And fleas can jump very, very high, but they'll only jump as high as the ceiling. And then you take that top off, and not only will they not jump out of the jar, but their offspring and stuff are taught not to jump out, because they've been given this invisible ceiling. And that's what happens to us. It's literally the same thing that happens to us. We've been given this invisible ceiling. Our parents are conditioned to say, you ain't gonna be that, you ain't gonna be that, you ain't gonna be that, you ain't gonna do this. Same with us. So this is the ceiling that we gotta break, but it's that inside, y'all. It comes from within. Says life is an adventure and love is the key. What? Preach. Absolutely. Love is absolutely the key. Love is the key. And the Most High said it. What are the most important things to do? Love God with all of your heart and might, and love thy neighbor. And love is the thing that breaks this, right? And that is why you cannot. All of the greats said it. That's why I love Bob Marley. For only love can conquer hate. Only love. You cannot fight hate with hate. You cannot fight darkness with darkness. You just can't. You cannot. The only way to fight darkness is with light. That's the only way. And the more light that we shine on the world, the more darkness that we rid the world of. But so many of us hide our lights. So many of us allow life to darken and put these blankets over our lights. So it's up to us. There's still that self element. We can't sit and point the finger and say massa or the man or this or this. It's all about, because those excuses mean nothing. At some point, we got to be the ones to remove that. And granted, a lot of us are stuck in a place where we have so many things blanketed in our light, but through prayer, through meditation, through accountability, through reading the Bible, through reading scriptures, through reading texts, through changing our actions to transform. And those are the things that slowly remove it. And it's not a single day thing. It's a transformative process until you wake up and you're just beaming full of light. And it's not going to happen overnight. It takes time, y'all. It takes time, and it takes sacrifice, and it takes breaking who we once were. It takes looking in the mirror and being honest with ourselves. What are our blankets, right? You know, Adam and Eve covered themselves with the fig leaves, and the fig leaves, you know, those are our blankets, right? What are we covering? What are we covering ourselves with? Our nakedness, right? Like, what is being covered? And everyone's is different. It's not a one size fits all model, but all of ours are different. So all of our journeys are going to be different. They're all going to be unique. A lot of us have similar things. A lot of us may have similar because our parents grew up on drugs or this. So there's going to be, you know, things that are similar that we're able to help each other with. But at the end of the day, we have to be the ones to make that change, to make that transformation, to remove those fig leaves, to remove those blankets, to let our light shine. And that's where it gets hard, because, you know, burning who you were, burning the person that you've created for yourself, because a lot of these personalities and a lot of these masks that we created, they were used for our protection. They were used to protect us and shield us from so many bad things in the world, because there are a lot of bad and hard things. But now we have to have the ability to look and see that a lot of those things that protected us in the beginning to get us here are now hindering us. So now we got to do the inventory. What's hindering me now? What protected me at one point that I'm still holding on to that's now hindering me? And that's the power of looking. Michael Jackson says, I'm talking to the man in the mirror. That's the power of doing that, is being able to look in the mirror and see what things need to be changed that no longer serve us, and taking that inventory. And that was our homework, right? Making that list of, this is no longer serving me and keeping me from the goal. And this is the thing that's pushing me towards the goal. So anyone who we did that homework, now we kind of tie it here. This is where that list comes in. And it could also be personality traits. Doesn't necessarily just need to be time blockers. Procrastination. It could be fear, right? It could be ego in this area of my life, or, you know, not having accountability in this part of my life. These are all blockers as well. Not just doom scrolling, but all of these things. So what part of these are on that side of the list that we need to get rid of, right? Like, that's what we're working on. And that's And I hope y'all did your homework. I know a couple of people said that y'all did. Let's see. I know numerology said if y'all did. Shout out. And this is where we are now because we don't know how much time we got left, y'all. I'm 40. I'm lucky enough to make it to 40. Tupac made it to what, like 20 something? We got cousins and family who didn't even make it here, right? So we need to know that we are on borrowed time. So we can't sit and dwell, and we can't sit and we can't feel sorry for ourselves, and we can't sit and we can't mope, and we can't do anything. We got to realize that we have a lot of support on the spiritual side, but it takes us to make that first step. It's kind of like those movies like X-Men or something, right? I don't know if you've ever seen when they walk and they open up the door and there's no path. And then as they walk, the path just starts coming under their feet, but it's not very far in front of them. It's only under each step. And that's kind of what God is like with us. Under each step that we take, the path is not fully out there. We don't even see it. We don't see it until we take the risk and put our foot down and take that step out. And then we realize, oh, there's a foundation here. Okay, I'm supported here. Let me take a next step. Oh, snap. I'm supported here. Okay. I'm actually supported. And then it starts off with us taking very slow steps. And then we start to, walk faster, right? We start to walk faster. So that's really what it's like. And that's where we are right now. And, that's the beauty of this platform. That's the beauty of having things like the Bible. That's the beauty because there's a blueprint written for us. And I was always looking for the blueprint. And I've read so many texts. I've gone through so many, from the Bhagavad Gita to the Zohar, to Wayne Dyer, to Michael Bernard Beckwith, to Eckhart Tolle, to just so many, to Dr. Joe Dispenza, to Jerry and Esther Hicks, to just so many. I've been looking for the blueprint for so long, and they are right. It's been right there in front of me the whole time. And all of these people and everything that I've learned from all these things are all in the one book. They're all in the one book of the Bible. And that's the reason why I'm fascinated with this book right now, is because it is a blueprint. And we're at the point now where the way that the world is going, this is the one book that's prophesies everything that we're seeing right now, between the different relations, like Russia and China getting into a relationship together, and just so many things that are being prophesied, that this is the one book that's not only prophesizing, but what we need to do and what's next and what the next steps are. And that's the reason why now we have to start drilling it in our heads now. We got to start drilling it harder in our heads now, that now is the time. And that's why this whole week, it was about just taking inventory. It was about us sitting with ourselves. It was with us sitting with God, asking questions, and being able to hear hard answers, right? It may not be the answers that we want, but that's good. When the answer is hard, when the answer scares us, that means that that's change on the other side of that. When it doesn't scare us, there is no change on it. When it requires no strength on our part, there is no change on the other side of that. True change requires strength. It requires us stepping out on a limb. It requires us being terrified. It requires us doing things that we thought we never would have to do. It requires us to do things that we are terrified to do. It requires us to remove people in our lives that have been there forever. It requires us to remove jobs from our lives that we felt were keeping us stable. It requires us to literally be born again. And it requires us to be in that fire where it's so uncomfortable, to burn all of our impurities off until God sees his reflection in us. And that's what it requires of us. And most people are not going to be able to do it. So that's why we have to be the ones to do it. We have to be the ones to show all of those people who are afraid to do it that it's okay. Because once we do it and we become a living example, then all of the people who looked up to us that we didn't even know looked up to us, all of them will start to ask us, what changes? I'm starting to see you a little bit different. I'm starting to see a little bit different. What changed in you? I'm seeing this. I'm seeing this. And we gotta express to them that we put ourselves through the fire. We took very long, deep, hard looks at ourselves. We looked our impurities in the face. We looked these things that were holding us back in the face. We looked our fears in the face. We looked them in the face and we conquered them. And we conquered them. And I'm telling you that on the other side of that is going to be joy, is going to be peace, is going to be serenity, and it's going to be all of the things that we've been wanting, but it's going to take everything that we have. It's going to take every little bit of us. It's not going to come easy. If we are fighters, if we are basketball players, if whatever sport you look at, if we are soccer players, football players, whatever, the people who win that gold and win that championship and win that belt, it takes everything. It doesn't take a little bit here, a little bit there. I went to practice this day, but I missed practice this day. Nah, we don't miss practice no more. We don't. We become those people who are at practice early. We become those people who leave practice late. We become those people who show up to practice when there is no practice. We become those people who there is no such thing as an off season. We become these tools and these people who we just don't turn it off. We are on go mode right now because this is that time. And when we start to feel like we don't have it, we jump into on Zen AM. We jump into the Patreon chat that I created. We jump into that. We jump into the people who we know who are also in this fight. And that's the reason why, team sports is like, we call our team members, hey man, I don't feel like going to practice today. And I'm like, I feel you, but you better be there. I know you don't feel like going, but you better be there. So is, this is that season, y'all. So I hope that we all did our homework. I hope that we are all locking in. We're now going into the weekend. It's Friday. I didn't know I was going to be doing the show solo today, but I feel like whenever it comes to a solo show, it's like it turns into like a group chat, which I love. So, we'll look at, maybe start doing more solo shows because I was afraid to do the show solo. Like when God put this show on my heart, he put it on my heart. And then I was afraid to do it by myself. I didn't know what I was going to talk about. So I instantly went to Darian and Chucky and I was like, yo, y'all want to do the show with me? You know what I'm saying? But he had put it on my heart. He didn't put it on theirs. He put it on mine. He was like, this is what you should do. And this is me facing the fear of something that I don't like to do. I don't like to put out content. I don't like to put out me talking. I don't like to put out anything. Like I like to just be I like to be in the cut. I like to be chilling, but that's not what God wants me to do. So I'm facing that even today doing the show solo. Last time I did the show solo, I'm facing all of these things that I don't want that I'm being called to do and being on the forefront. I don't like being in the forefront. I don't. It may seem like it because I did TV and stuff, but even when I did TV, I was in the cut. But it's time for me to step out of that. It's time for you to step out of that. Stop being in the background. Stop. You did not come in here like Peter Tosh said. He said, I did not come into this world to be a background vocalist, right? You didn't come into this world to be a background vocalist. God didn't make you to be a background vocalist, right? And he even said it. He says that a city on the hill is meant to be seen. That's you. That's you. You are meant to be seen. We are meant to break mediocrity. Man, that mediocrity shit was 2025, 2024 us, 2023 us. That's when that mediocrity shit was. But we breaking that now. We not doing mediocre anymore. We are surpassing that. We going into here like Conor McGregor. We going into here like the old Floyd Mayweather. We going in here like Tyson. We knocking you out first round. We didn't come here to play no games with y'all. I'm coming in here and I'm taking your head off immediately. We don't get paid for overtime. We don't get paid for that. So that's our message today. We come in, we breaking that, y'all. We breaking that. No more mediocrity, no more hindrances, no more fear, none of that. We stepping into what we were meant to do. And whether it's lead one person, whether it's lead a family, whether it's lead 50 people, whether it's lead 1 million people, whatever it is, we meant to lead. Okay. We're not meant to follow anymore. Even Jesus sent his people out to go lead. They was afraid. Said, I don't know. We don't know enough. He said, we don't know anything. You know enough. You know enough. Now go lead. You know enough. That's where we at right now. Y'all know enough. So if you think that you know enough, all right, whatever fear you've been holding on to, you look at this list that you made, you look at that answer that you came to on Wednesday of what it is that you're trying to do, you know enough. All right, you know enough. It's enough time of gathering this and gathering that. The gathering is over. The gathering is over, y'all. It's done. All right. Now we leading. We got enough resources. Everything is already perfect enough. Go start making those sales calls. Go start building that website. Go start reading that and writing that book. Go start putting that album out there. Go in there and drop your new business. Go in there and put it up. It's done now. You didn't gathered enough. You got enough. Now the gathering that we're doing is going to be holding us back from the growth now. We didn't gathered enough. It's enough. We know enough. It's time for us to lead, y'all. All right. I'm leaving y'all with that. I'm leaving y'all with that. Okay. This is our time. Take that into the weekend with y'all. Take that into the weekend. Let that sit on your brains for this weekend. I'm letting it sit on my brains. When I'm talking to y'all, I'm channeling. All right. This ain't me. I'm channeling. All right. I'm talking to myself too. Okay. This is conversations that I'm having with myself in front of y'all. So it's that time. Take this into the weekend, y'all. Be here on Monday, no matter what. We have the Patreon open now. Were y'all able to see the chat in the Patreon? I just want to make sure. Let me see. I didn't see any. Let me check this Patreon right quick. Okay. Yep, we in here. Numerology. Boom, man. Let's go. Let's go. We in here, y'all. We're going to start using this chat, y'all. This is that place. This is that place for us to continue. I'm going to turn my notifications on now that I see that y'all in there, so I could chime in. And this is where we at, y'all. We building, y'all. We are done building, and now we leading. With that being said, we'll see y'all Monday. I might be talking to y'all this weekend on Patreon, but holla.